Before we get into today's episode, don't forget to sign up to the book and the VIP newsletter at thehighestandbestuse.com. For the book, you can get that at Amazon, Chapters, Barnes & Noble, all of these places in paperback, ebook, hardcover, and of course now the Audible version as well. So grab the book, sign up to the VIP newsletter, thehighestandbestuse.com, and now to today's episode.
Hey guys, I'm Mandy Branham here on the Highest and Best Use podcast, and the highest and best use for me is joint venture partnerships.
Thanks for tuning into the Highest and Best Use Real Estate Podcast, where we talk techniques to optimize your land, structure, skill sets, and time, as well as the highest and best use principles to make your business more profitable, productive, and efficient. I'm your host, Ryan Carr, reminding you that good deals are found, great deals are created. And today, I'm so excited for this. We have Mandy Brahnam on the show. Mandy is known as the JV Queen all across Canada. She's a champion, hundreds of units, dozens of partners, and I'm really excited to have her here. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me here.
This
what
is
a
exciting.
great space you have.
I'm glad you can make it.
I know. This in-person thing absolutely creates a different connection.
It's true.
Yeah.
We're no Larry today.
I know.
Larry, he's got Dr. Summeroff. He's got the sniffles.
He was fishing yesterday.
Yeah, Larry. Larry.
He's got a good life.
That's right. That's right. I'm happy to have you here.
Good. Thank you.
So today I want to cover three things: building a large portfolio, highest and best use within that portfolio, and lastly, managing downside risk in this market. Obviously, you're the champion of all of these things with many, many partners. So I'm excited to hear your take on all this.
Well, the champion and, when you say large portfolio, except you remember the first couple when you didn't know if you were going to be an anybody and you're just doing it because one made sense, because the second one made sense, because the third one made sense. Yeah. And I think it's just, especially chatting with you who've been here for all of this, but, it's about the next one that's right. Yeah. And, without having this big vision of, yes, I'm going to have this portfolio and I'm going to help all these investors, it was like, does this asset that's in front of me make sense for me, for my investors, for the strategy that we have and the life that we want to have around it? Mm-hmm. So I think it just kind of, it's so interesting to be who I am right now. But yet when I think about the last 8 years that we've built this, it never always was quite a vision to have.
Is that what
this.
It's been? 8 years?
Yeah.
Start to today?
Yeah, 8.5.
And how many units over those 8 years?
350.
That's a lot of units.
I know.
Why do you say that? I know.
Well, because sometimes they're not sometimes. They're a lot of work. And I never, I think we all know that I'm a realist. And when I, share stuff like this, I'll give you the goods, but you have to sit and listen to the opposite side of what can come of that. And the overwhelm, the questions, the unknowns, the deals that didn't go through.
You learn so much from those, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's why.
So unit count, 350 units at this point. What would the dollar value be of that property or that portfolio?
So I think I've had about 350. We sold quite a few in 2022.
Okay.
Not as many as now looking back. I wish there could have been more for sale signs, but it's about a $60 million portfolio right now. Still some good learning lessons up and down from that, and still some assets on the chopping block, just making sure. Right now it's just a stabilization. Are the assets working? Interest rates have changed. Just life situation has changed with partners, with myself. And I think it's really great to be able to have that conversation. Does this still make sense?
Ooh, okay. So that leads into, I want to talk about managing risk at the end.
Yep.
Could you build this portfolio again in this market today, knowing what you know now if you started from zero?
Absolutely.
Ooh, why?
Because there are still burrs to be found. There are still assets that you can make money in the buy. There is still financing through that joint venture model. Again, you know me, I will continue to go back to that joint venture, but there are some phenomenal A lenders who are looking for top class borrowers. So my ideal JVs are those, fully employed, long-term employed, have no mortgage on their house, and are saying to themselves, how do I diversify into real estate without the time factor, without going through all the education and the teachings and stuff like that? And, how do I kind of fast track that? Yep. Well, welcome to a partner with Mandy. So I have been telling people, those who are willing to step into my shoes, 7-8 years ago, still have a major opportunity to be able to offer that type of clientele, joint ventures, those kind of properties, 2 to 4 units in the small residential space. I think there's tons of opportunity right now.
Is that your preferred method as opposed to multis? You like to keep it like smaller unit count? What do you prefer?
Not now. No. I definitely want to go larger.
Is that for strategy or financing?
Sanity.
Why transact 50 duplexes when you can do,
Yes.
2 50-unit buildings?
That's exactly it. So we had our the need for our construction company at the time. Well, when you get into these large multis, you don't need a construction company anymore. So you're really just balancing out your time. What is the best use of your time? And for us, when Larry stepped away from his job and could step into the role of ownership of a construction company and was running all these crews, what a great use of his time.
Sure.
Okay. Same with the smaller buildings. And at the time, it was the creation of the secondary unit. So we were all going into the basements, creating that secondary suite. Well, so I still see that opportunity in the 2 to 4 unit space. And now it's the third, fourth units that you could, depending on, municipality and city that you're in. So again, another reason why I still think that small property is very good for somebody wanting to expand a portfolio quickly.
Yeah. Do you think that Larry has been an instrumental part of the business such that you couldn't handle that if you didn't have him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So at the time, I think I was doing 10 projects, and I would take a mix of turnkey, small renovations, full basement conversion, turnkey, small renovation. Okay, so I was doing that.
You'd be nibbling at it.
Yeah.
Where you had to just plug and play.
Just to be able to balance my time before we started the construction company. I remember going to our staff member and saying, "I got good news and bad news. Good news is, you're still employed with us. Bad news is we have to stop the employment with my company because we've just started a construction company and you're now going to be switched over there and you're going to have this title and the raise and whatever." So but we literally went from people working for me to over to the construction company, and then now he took on 3 crews and whatnot. So instrumental in the type of asset class that we were doing within that timeline.
Do you think the basement apartment's disappearing? Like, are the basements drying up? They're being built out. They're disappearing, or do you think there's still plenty of them to go around?
I think there's plenty of them to be built still. It will take a strategic investor, Mr. Carr, who knows how to keep costs appropriate. I always say to people, there ain't no HGTV cameras coming around my basement suites, okay? But I swear there's a lot of investors, and I know the person that's thinking, oh my gosh, she's talking about me, because I've had these ahas with investors, okay? I've had these ahas. And they think they're just so gosh darn beautiful that they overspend on the renovations of a basement unit. Now, I would go in and I'd say, I'd rather do 10 at a 75% of, executive finishes. If it ain't broke, I kept it, like those kind of things, rather than going in and spending that extra $30,000 to $50,000, which you're having a harder time to buy right. You're having a harder time to renovate right. Timelines are along so there's still a lot of factors that you have to control to be able to make that basement suite work. Yeah. But the answer is, do I still think the basement suite works? Yes, because the rental rates continue to match what a true value of a basement suite can be. Yeah.
We were always upper mid-range finishes. So we never went super luxe, but we never went like, oh man, no one's going to live here. We were kind of somewhere in the middle. And I always found that there was more of a tenant pool because that's kind of where people that had self-respect would live, right? And you could usually get pretty good rents because there was more demand for it. And you get good tenants that respect themselves,
right? Too,
in that type of a unit.
And we're talking the difference between quartz countertops and a nice laminate, right? A backsplash done or a backsplash not done. Like, there's not a ton of differences. But when you say yes to this and then yes to that and then yes to this, next thing you know, your budget has just gotten out of control and you haven't even started you haven't even really come to the project, the issues that might cost money. So yeah, definitely.
What's happening behind the scenes? What does the portfolio management look like?
It looks like a heck of a lot of bookkeeping and tax preparation and corporate taxes.
Yeah.
And
Do you have full-time staff for all this?
I do have my ride or die is my bookkeeper.
Yeah.
She'll never come on a podcast, but that's okay. She knows her stuff inside and out. I've got a couple property managers that run 2 separate property management companies. I still have some local property experts that, for the strategy that I had. One's amazing in Hamilton, one's amazing in Kingston. And stabilizing. So really looking at the bottom 10% of our portfolio and saying what assets are causing noise, aren't working well, had a strategy that, we haven't lost any money, but it's not going in the direction that we anticipated it would.
Right.
Which ones are on the chopping block?
Mm-hmm. Why did you said earlier in the show you wished you had sold more properties in 2022. Why is that?
Because the market was just so hot and there was so many buyers. I remember, in November, I went to see this very wealthy man, and he said, he kind of, as he's introducing himself, said, I'm a member of 4 golf courses. 2 I own and 2 are friends. And I'm like, I'm listening to whatever this man has to say right now. Yep. And he said, I'm so curious to hear what you're buying in a seller's market. And as he said that, I crossed my arms and sat back. And he goes, are you closed off to what I'm saying right now? And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm very open to what you're saying.
Just purely based on body language.
He was judging my body language. So I opened up my hands and I literally the whole time, and then I opened my journal and I said, is it okay if I make notes? And he said, I'm happy for you to make notes. So I started to make notes, and anytime that I was feeling closed, that I was closing off to his ideas, I would put my hands on the table like in this, stay open to what this man is saying. He's building a $20 million Holiday Inn and he didn't need any financing until the end. And I'm like, I need to listen to what this guy has to say. And he said, you should be selling everything that has the ability to be sold right now. And I'm like, okay. Ooh. And I was worried about what...
That's a pretty big thing to say.
It was.
Yeah.
So he had already been through this, and he sold everything in his portfolio at the time when it said sell, which left him in a huge cash position, then let him be able to take advantage of the market when the next strategy was there to hit the table.
Was that the biggest takeaway from this type of conversation with him?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like to a T. And he's in land development now, but he's like, it's not for the faint of heart. You need some cash, blah, blah, blah. So I was worried about what my partners would say. This is a 5-year strategy. In my head, please remember that, I'm worried about what other people are going to say, but that's not really what it is. I'm already creating a conversation in my own head as to what my partners are going to say. Well, guess what? Not one of them hesitated and said no. None of them. That I said, hey, the upper unit's going to be vacant. It's a really great time. I suggest we put it up for sale, put it up for sale, put it up for sale. So, we sold a bunch of assets. There were some that got stuck in August or July, August, September that we ended up taking off the market. But one of our duplexes in Hamilton, we had refinanced it at 625 in 2020, just before pandemic, 625. Yep. Sold firm.
And rates were still great then.
Sold firm for $1 million. 2 years later. Yeah. So I mean, we some of them we did really, really well. Other ones we didn't. Then we got into a flip. That was bad.
Are you not a flipper?
I'm not a flipper,
No?
but we were short on stuff for our construction company to do. Yeah. So we bought a flip. I bought a flip.
Keep the pipe full, right?
Right?
Yeah.
I bought wrong. I, bought with emotion. It's a little cottage. I can use it. Renovated wrong. Like all of these things. And so now it sits for sale and it just needs to be able to be sold. But we bought it with cash. Yep. So it's not as if we have to worry about some privates or anything like that. So I have a couple of those right now that I'm glad we finance the way that we finance. Again, back to partners. Again, back to, being able to say that we're not over leveraging ourselves to get into these assets, because there's no worry about having to pay off a private lender or a prom note or, this is somebody's retirement and oh my gosh, has Mandy messed it up?
That's a big deal. Taking somebody's money. I remember borrowing money from somebody and it was their like it was their cancer money. It was their medication money that they were giving me to invest, like, because I was looking for money to do some projects, right? And the guy was like, here, I'm going to give you this money, but like, just so you know, this is what it is. And I'm like, holy shit. So the gravity of that, not that, like, and really at its core, whether it was medication money or whether it was just fun money, I still treated the same with dignity and respect. But like, just knowing that makes you perk up a little bit and say, hey, whoa, this has a real implication if it doesn't get paid back.
Yeah, because I mean, if it was a billionaire's $100,000, you'd be like, this is pocket change for this guy. Whereas, $100,000 with a story like that, you're like, get to work. Yeah. It's true. How do you decide, like, okay, this is a project that we're going to take on for our staff to keep the pipe full or not? Is it purely just based on manpower at that point, or what do you do? Yeah, we look forward to say what units do we think are going to be kind of coming vacant. And, if I had a crystal ball and I could time it perfectly, the world would be great. We had one unit that the pipes froze for 5 years. So finally we said to this tenant, like, look you need to leave. We need to update electrical, to update the heating, to be able to upgrade the plumbing. So we need to do all of these things. It's not just a little fix anymore, right? Yeah. Well, he was supposed to leave in April, doesn't leave in April, May, June, July. Now he's gone in September. Well, now I don't have a crew in September because they're working on this and that. And, other properties that, the units just became vacant very quickly. And I'm like, an opportunity that the unit has become vacant. Crap, my crew is tied up. And it's always feast or famine for us. So there's some
wild like that.
I know.
It's so wild. No deals, too many deals. You're like, oh.
Right? Do I hire more, or do I just let these projects lag for another 2 or 3 months?
Right.
And keep the same crew busy. So I mean, it's definitely a human problem. It's not it's difficult to keep the deal flow accurately consistent.
Do you guys have a construction crew based on necessity or based on it's a money-making opportunity? Like, why do you have full-time staff?
I ask myself that often. I mean, if I could manage another building and not have to manage a team, I would take the building 100 times over.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I love adding value to staff. But it's not, sometimes it's very difficult. So it's just, it just is. So we look after our staff, or at least I perceive we do. They come in, they do their own thing. If somebody's, I can't say that they're overworked hard, but I mean, they have showed up for us. I value them very, very much to be able to be on the team. They've kept things moving and flowing. Our construction company is not a money-making activity. It is a necessity, very similar to the property management companies. Could you outsource? Yep, you could outsource. It might cost you slightly more, but your level of control would be down.
You can't just pluck people off and say, oh, go over here, emergency.
Yep. But we're on call, so we take our turn, just the same as there's, 4 other people that take long weekend on calls, and I just pass it around the team and be like, we take our weekend, you take yours. So
let's transition to partners. Do you think your partners appreciate the fact that you have in-house people to look after your portfolio?
In the beginning, I didn't value it, so I didn't share it correctly to my early partners. Now, to my coming in partners, it's a level of sophistication that you have your own team. Right. You don't go to McDonald's and go, why aren't you the farmer, with the potato, with the potato crops, right? It's not what you think. You want the efficiency. You want you
want your Happy Meal right now.
Right now,
yeah,
right?
now.
So I just think that it's one of those things that is the next level evolution. I've looked at a fund, and they do the exact same thing that I do, but they do it with large multifamily. And he beautifully said, we have an arm of a construction company, which means that our units get looked after way quicker than if we had to outsource it. Our properties are managed by our in-house property management. They know how we flow. They know, so it's for those reasons that having these in-house is significantly more sophisticated than having to outsource all the time.
Yeah. You ever thought about starting a fund?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And?
I think how this is how I have to say it for a lot of things. I need the right team around me. Okay. and somebody would need me as the right person to start a fund. So somebody who is like, oh my gosh, I've done a fund. I've been part of a fund. I know the ins and the outs of a fund. I just need somebody with the real estate expertise or the ability to raise capital. Wow, what a perfect, creation of it. But for me to say that I want to learn and know every part of a fund, I think is disservice to the genius that I would bring to a fund.
Interesting. So you'd want to be the real estate brains, but not necessarily like the, what would you call it, high finance side of things where like you're the person starting the thing and doing the logistics and all the compliance. You don't want that.
Nope.
No.
Nope. No. Do I think they're a great way? So again, though, Ryan, does it meet my need to be able to offer partners or investors other ways to diversify their investment portfolio? So it checks a big box for me. But when you get into this fund, there's a lot of
stuff going on in a fund.
There's a lot of costs. Yeah. There's a lot of fees. There's a lot of this. So now, if I used to say I don't get out of bed to give my partners less than 15%, and I bring a fund onto the table, and that fund is 8%. No guarantees on anything more than that. You're kind of like, well, where did the other 7% go? And you have to be able to say,
it got eaten up in paperwork. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you are asking yourself, is this the best way that I can service all my partners, all of the people that I want to be able to bring on?
Is that a target you typically go for, is around 15%?
It's still definitely available. Yes. Yeah. So it would be like, so your projects would be in that 30 to 40% range, with various splits. Now that the deals are bigger, I do have some different splits other than 50-50 on the table.
How would you do that?
Different splits?
Yeah. Like, can you break any of those down?
Yeah. So if it was a rather turnkey project and there's, project management coming in, it would probably be more like a 60-40, 60 for the investors, 40 for me. If it was very turnkey and didn't need much of anything and I'm going to take an asset management fees, it might be more like 80-20, 80 for the investors, 20 for me. There's also a thing called a waterfall payment, which says, look, I'll pay my investors 8% on their money, and take these asset management fees, which means that everybody's kind of getting paid for their role, for their money coming in and for their active services. And then once that all the capital is repaid, then we go into a 50-50 split.
Gotcha.
Okay. So there is a way for investors to be paid capital, cash on cash. I can't say that I've gotten into too much of the details, into those. But there's a variety of ways to be able to split the pie. And, the larger the deals, this is for the people who have, multi-millions, that you still can do a deal with two people. One person comes in with $2 to $5 million and they're the only partner on this deal. What a great way to be secured onto the asset with no other people involved. You do a corporate share purchase and everybody knows what's going on. Same model as the small stuff, but you just go a little bit bigger. So you're just looking for people who have larger sums of money, but not have to go into the fund structure.
Yeah.
Eats away at a lot.
It does. You ever done a corporate takeover or like a share purchase when you buy a building? Instead of buying the building, like a title transfer, you buy the company?
I have not. I've walked with somebody who did that a couple times. I had one that I brought to my accountant and she said, no way am I allowing you to buy this corporation.
Because you don't know what's going on with that corp in the past, right? That's one of the downsides.
Yeah. How much have they depreciated the asset? But they still want top dollar, even though they've depreciated it, and then they're trying to sell it to you at the non-depreciated value. Yeah. So definitely have your accountant look stuff like that over.
But on the flip side, you don't pay land transfer tax.
Big deal.
That's a huge deal.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, think about the percentage on a multi-million-dollar building.
Okay. So I'll take multi-million.
Yeah, right? Think about it. You're buying 50 units. Right. Or 100 units or 200, however big the thing is. You buy the corp instead of buying the property.
Yep.
And you save on the land transfer tax. That's huge.
Yeah. But it's a write-off, so you're going to be in a loss in your first year. I mean, there's lots of. I definitely think it's the next next level strategy for sure. Always ask that question. Is this the only asset that the corporation holds? Right?
Yeah, true.
And if it's not, then, next move on. Or if it's not, you're saying, what other assets does the corporation hold? And is the seller interested in selling the whole corporation? Sometimes for tax reasons, they will want to keep the corporation.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
Right? So
if you could teach somebody how to think like Mandy, how would you do that? You're a big thinker.
am I a big thinker? I'm a big action taker. I think if I were to teach anybody anything, it's like sometimes you just need to turn off your brain and take action and worry about the consequences after, being sometimes you get into a deal and you're like, what was I thinking? Right. And, if you judge your decision making in the first week or month of owning that asset, but once the renovations start to come to fruition or the appraisal comes in at the value that you said, there are times, Ryan, that I'm sure people would have said, aren't you lucky? You found the right deal. And you're like, it's not luck. It's because I had this vision. I was adaptive. I was able to, change my strategy, evolve. And yes, 3 years later, I look lucky.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I had all of this hesitation. Okay. I think people perceive that the right deal looks like this perfect birthday cake that's just going to be presented to you. I call it the rainbow colored uniform. They want that. They want it to look like that. And I'm like, often that looks like hard work.
Yeah.
The wrong deal, fears, and you're afraid and negative comments from other investors. That's what a perfect deal looks like.
Yeah.
And you have to question yourself. You're like, shit,
I think it was Mike Rowe who was like, opportunity looks like hard work covered in overalls or something like this. Yeah. Like, it's true. It's true.
You have what you have because you worked your butt off.
Likewise.
I know.
Likewise.
So I want people to feel that, though. I want them to understand that, this wasn't a silver platter that things just came and were handed. There's definitely this element of time. What did I say to somebody the other day? Our whatever anniversary was spent at a property with a bottle of champagne and drywall, right? We're like, we're drywall sanding, and that's just one of our anniversaries. That's it. That's just how life was. That doesn't mean that was right, that we had to do it that way. They aren't all like that. Yep. But that's
what a story, though. Who can say drywall and champagne, right?
Right. Drywall and champagne.
My wife and I, when we would buy a new house, we'd go in and it was usually a disaster. And we would have pizza on the floor with like a bottle of wine, and there'd be like junk and garbage and all kinds of stuff. And we would do the same thing. But when you look back, you go, oh, those are some of the memories that you make. And you look back and you go, oh, look how far we've come.
Yes.
Right? And look how far you've come.
Yeah. And you don't want to change any of that. You need to appreciate, the sacrifices that you made, the hardships that you made, to be able to be where you are. And you can't skip that, right? There, you can't skip a step.
That's true.
You can't skip some of that hard work, that sacrifice, that fear, right? And, and so I think it would be a disservice if I say, I wish for a new investor never to have any fear about the type of property that they're buying. Because I think that no matter what, you're writing your name, you're signing to a property, an offer, even if it's just an offer, and you can walk away from it. But I will never take the fear that somebody has about signing that offer. And those like, oh my gosh, what if they accept it? Yeah. I want sit in that for a little bit.
Let it marinate.
Yes. Yeah. Because then it gets bigger. I remember my first $1 million offer. Well, I didn't get it, but it didn't matter because the first $1 million offer was big enough to be able to say, I've now graduated to $1 million offers.
So it pulled you up.
It did. Yeah.
That's
and cool. I did not get the deal.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Let's talk highest and best use of your portfolio. So value adds. Can you give us an example of like a value add that you've gone through and it's been amazing, and then maybe one that didn't go so well?
So I have, these are as in the moment as can be.
Meaning what?
So we bought it in 2021, and so I only bought one asset last year, and it was that flip that didn't go very well, which was 2022. So so in 2021, we bought 2 duplexes, and they may have closed early 2022. 2 duplexes side by side, 1 pin. And we were like, wow, this is great. We're just going to sever down the middle. We're going to go in. We're going to pay some cash for keys, hire some paralegals to be able to get us through these properties and be able to raise the rents, exit finance with 2 separate pins, bada bing, bada boom. Wrong paralegals, as much as you think that you're removed from the circumstances and they're the experts, they don't always know what they're doing. And tenants in Ontario, right? Even get it really more disclaimer. It's their homes and they're getting smarter. And when rents are low, they are asking a lot of questions. So it's just not a simple strategy anymore. So now we need to, and that was in Cornwall where partners walked away because they felt that, we weren't all doing our roles, blah, blah, blah. So I had to take this back over. I had to pick up where, all these pieces, I didn't even know where everything was. Like, it just turned into a total shit show. Do I still think we bought right? Yes, we paid under $400,000 for 2 duplexes. Each one of those sides, we're closer to the severance process happening now. Each one of those duplexes will be $300,000 to $350,000 upon an exit refi. The tenants are back in place with a small 3% increase just with the renovations that we've done, and we're, we'll have a refi in the next soon enough.
Sure.
But
so you're able to save that.
Somewhat
bring
save
it back around.
And my pride and a lot of time, and can't say that the strategy went exactly as planned.
Isn't it funny that some of them are just no problem, and then some of them you think it's going to be a slam dunk, and you go, "What the heck? Why? How? Why? Why me?"
The easiest ones, Ryan, are the ones that you make money in the buy.
Yeah.
And you go, this is a good deal. This is a good deal. Yeah, it's a good deal. And then a year later, you have a refi and you're like, literally, we painted the front porch and it's worth $100,000 more, right? But you're not selling it. And I think that's the interesting thing about my joint venture model is, when I'm saying to somebody, look, we're buying this duplex in Cornwall for $220,000. What do you buy for $220,000? We're buying it for $220,000. If nothing else happens, we've bought a duplex for $220,000. A year later, it's valued at $320,000. We've literally painted the front porch, same tenants, same rental rates, and they're able to refinance out all their money. Now, but ask me about that property. It's not cash flowing right now. We're doing some cash injections into it just to be able to maintain it because interest rates are where they are. So it's a home run. But it's not wrapped like a home run. And we didn't have to do a ton of work. So, I know a lot of people want to be able to take the ugliest house and make it the nicest house. But sometimes there is just a genius in being able to negotiate the right deal and refinance with the right mortgage product a year later to be able to refinance out and actually not do a ton of work.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Nick Legault. Do you know Nick Legault?
Yeah.
Nick Legault was on the show, and he said something to the effect of a good deal with bad financing is a bad deal. And I thought, that's pretty profound. I never heard it put like that. And to your point, like what you're saying is sometimes you get great properties that are a home run on the equity side, but the cash flow side, you're going, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this work?
Right. Yeah. But so for me, how do you make it work? And I mean, I guess I missed the interest rate memo that this is where interest rates truly were going, which again is fun because you're like, nobody has a crystal ball. Yeah. So you're not pitching anything that you have an inside scoop on or that you're lying to a partner or you're deceiving anybody because nobody knows. So if you refinance out $100,000, leave $10,000 in that bank account. So pretend you only got 90, pretend you only got 80. Then you have this huge, beautiful reserve fund. Now, I get a lot of people that will say, well, you must be cash flowing like crazy. I'm not a cash flow girl. Right. I'm not saying that I don't have accumulation of cash flow in some of my accounts, but I don't pay out cash flow a lot. And the reason is
to partners.
To partners. Yep, to partners. So if they can't cover their HELOC fee or they, have wherever their cash comes from, if they can't cover that on their own, it's probably not a good opportunity to be able to come into this deal. But our joint bank accounts, the property accounts, specifically for the assets that we have, continually go up in value. Yeah. And I would rather have, $15,000 to $20,000 in a property bank account when interest rates are fluctuating and nobody really knows, than to be doing cash calls. So I can tell you that probably 65% of my portfolio is brilliant, and it just sits there and we're good to go. And that other 35%, they're the assets that the tenants are inconsistent. The silly repairs just keep happening. If one more fridge dies, I'm going to guess that it's going to be in those 35% of the properties, right? Murphy's Law. But then the other assets, it just kind of accumulates. And that in the wealth psychology, cash calms the mind. Okay. If you have cash sitting in your bank account, you can handle fluctuations. But if you have nothing and there's fluctuations, you can't handle the variations of a mortgage payment, of a whatever kind of groceries have gone up. The people that have some cash stability and the ones that don't, and they're, literally are paycheck to paycheck. So my JVs that we have the large cash balances in bank accounts, those are the ones that psychologically the properties are still
we're good.
Rolling really good.
We're good. What loan to value do you typically run at?
I think it varies. I would probably say on a portfolio right now, I'm about 55%. So rather low. It might have been more like 50%. But of course, values have slightly come down. So I adjust for those. Every quarter, I adjust my overall portfolio, my cash flow sheet, things like that. It's not up to date all the time, but...
Whoa. Before we get back to the episode, don't forget to sign up to the VIP newsletter at thehighestandbestuse.com. You get great tips and tricks there, completely free. Also, don't forget to grab a copy of the book at thehighestandbestuse.com, Amazon Chapters, Barnes & Noble, all of these places. That's where you can get it. You can get it in paperback, ebook, hardcover edition, as well as the Audible version too. So if you like to consume content by audio version, grab that. If you like paper, grab it there too. And now back to the episode. Yeah, but ballpark, yeah.
Yeah.
So then what's most important to you and your partners? Is it return on investment of the capital invested, or return on equity with the money that's in the portfolio or in the deal?
Again, I think my the profile of my partners is slightly changing. It is a return on... it'd be a return on investment, but once their investment is returned, it's now the consistency of the asset and less about what's the return. Like, it's not as if they're like, I need to know what my return on investment is. I need to, right?
Checking stocks every day. Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Once they have their capital back, and you go do what you need to do with your capital, just know that this asset is now going to be maintained, and we're going to own this for the next 5 to 10 years, and everything about it's going to be looked after. The return on this is less important than that original return on their capital.
Yeah. What's highest and best use for you?
Me, myself?
Yeah, you're the maestro here.
Find a way to help the many, for service to many leads to greatness. This is, so for many years, I was about how do I help my next partner? How do I, there's some warm my heart, beautiful partners that I have. And for the reasons that they invested with me are the exact reasons that I do what I did. But I put off coaching and sharing as much as I was looking for the next JV partner to be able to build and create diversity through real estate. Now it's time for me to be able to share to the many, and I will be taking what I know and saying to other people, like, we're just normal people, Ryan.
I know.
Right? Had a good life.
Everybody has the same opportunity.
Right.
Sort of, kind of.
Yep. But if that right person, if I'm able there to sprinkle a little bit of, the Mandy belief dust that I see more in you, if I can do it, you can do it. Real estate's a vehicle that we both know. We're not here questioning if real estate's the vehicle, right? No. I'm not here selling you a funnel. This isn't like, get rich online. There's nothing actually get rich quick about it. But But if
Wasn't
you're
it Grant Cardone? He's like, this is get rich slow, but get rich for sure.
Yes.
Something like this.
Sure, I'll
right?
take that.
Yeah.
Hi, there's some Grant I like and some Grant that I don't like.
Yeah.
But so it's a if I can do it, so can you. If you're willing to put in the effort and the time, work your 9 to 5 and then work your 5 to 9, whatever that might be for you. Real estate's definitely still a vehicle that there's lots of opportunity.
I like what you said there. We know, you and I both, we both know that the opportunity vehicle of real estate is the vehicle. It's just fine tuning how we go about doing that.
Yep.
I love that.
I met a guy and he bought he turned a property in Trenton into an Airbnb, and it had 70% vacancy for the first 6 months, and he bought wrong and he renovated wrong. And I'm just like, so there's a lot of people that are just listening to this, right? And I think there's amazing courses that they can be going to, Ryan. And it's time to say, in real estate, the mistakes can be very costly. Okay, this guy, he's unable to refinance. He's probably got $250,000 in one asset that is not cash flowing at all. And I think, what's the value of that 250? Is he broke? No, he's not broke. He's not broke at all. Okay. It didn't crush him. It's not anything. It didn't crush him. Yep. But I think there's the right steps to take in the right market, like in every market. So, and remember Don Campbell would put, the last 100 years, and every year there was a reason why you shouldn't invest.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I remember seeing that. I would love to see that chart again.
Don Campbell.
Yeah. Call it. Hey, Don.
And I would be curious to know what he would have on there as the last 3 years. But like right now, people would be like, well, don't invest because interest rates are too high, right? Or inflation isn't stable yet, whatever those things might be. But you also look at it and go, oh, right. Did you hear what immigration was? Not what it was projected to be. It was like something like 1 million people that, well, where are these people going? Yeah. So you always know that if you build it, they will come. Build it being the right rental unit in any city in Canada right now.
Well, now they're coming. We can't even build it.
We can't even. I know.
If they come, we must build it. I don't how do we reverse this, right?
Well, so again, there's one of my strategies is don't overthink this. If you can find a vacant duplex that the landlord had met wit's end and can handle it anymore, and you can fill that duplex, well, you just somewhat, if all we did was fill the vacant units, I think we would create a ton of units, ton of places for people to live just with vacant units. Yeah.
Do you think where's the money made, I guess, is the biggest question.
Money's made in the buy.
Period.
You have to be able to buy right. So you have to work with the right agent. You are buying the right property for the right strategy. So when we went up to Sudbury, no basement units in Sudbury, not one. Okay, not one. Why? Because there's rock in the majority of basements. But two, there was just a lot of under renovated, underutilized properties, triplexes where the third unit was never used. Oh, I didn't need to, I bought it. My brother lived here. Whatever the story might be. And so we just went in and went, how do we maximize the units that we can buy there? And
how many did you acquire in Sudbury?
46 properties in 9 months.
Yep. Duplex, typically? Duplex, triplex, or multis?
Duplex, triplex, 9, 10 units, 6, 5, 5.
Yeah.
Like a variety. All majority of them, except for the couple larger ones, were all with still residential financing. Yeah. There's some of my JV partners that I think, gosh, you're just genius for having come along. Right. We had people sign NDA, so non-disclosure agreements. And we didn't even tell anybody what city. We were like, you can come. Obviously, you're going to be signing the purchase and sale agreement, but you're not allowed to tell anybody what city we're buying in, because we went up there hard and fast and bought all these assets, made money in the buy. I still think that that's where you're going to be able to make money in the buy. Take a little bit of time. I remember a duplex, and we bought it in February. It had been vacant since December. No agent had been in to even know it was vacant. Wow. The sellers are now going through a divorce. So the situation around the asset was what made the deal so good.
And the fact that you could close.
And the fact that we closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you having such a big portfolio now, what drives you such that Instead of continuing to operate this large portfolio, tomorrow you could say, I'm going to sell it all, I'm out. Why do you keep going?
My partners.
Mm-hmm.
I've had people who have lost children. I have people who have gone through cancer treatments. I got, somebody went through a divorce and I got the call to be able to say, I got you in the divorce. And I was like, is that good? But they'd never have to worry about their assets. Yep. Now, there's definitely the ones that are going to over micromanage their assets because that's what they love to do and that's who they are. And so for those reasons, that's fine. But I do it for knowing that the properties are the right properties to have built wealth. Now, are they, multi-millionaires because of the assets? No, that's not it either. But we've maximized their mortgage qualification. We've maximized their capital, and we keep a great line of communication open, and here we are.
So if you're going to keep all this stuff, when is enough?
Enough small stuff for sure. Mm-hmm. It becomes logistically difficult when you have 50 plus bank accounts and literally
your stack of debit cards must be heavy duty.
It's big. Yeah. It's big, which I take out when I go on vacation and Larry goes, what's wrong with your wallet? And I was like, oh, it's because I don't have my bank cards in here. But my bookkeeper called today on the way down and she said, so you had $50 consumer loan payments for 6 months out of this one bank account. Now, usually she calls on me and she says, I need your computer brain because I definitely have a great memory. And I was like, no idea why there would be 6 months of a $50 consumer. And we were going hard, like, what could it be? What could it be? So there's you can't do that on a large level. And I think it's almost a disservice because I can help more people if I didn't have to stop and get everybody to qualify for a mortgage now. And it just takes a lot more hand holding. Now, I'm not saying that it's not appropriate. Mm-hmm. I still say the person that says I'm ready to stand into the JV Queen's shoes and pull off the JV model, go for it. There are so many people that are still looking to be able to say, I only have one mortgage, maybe two because they have a cottage, but I can qualify for 3-4 mortgages. I've got $400,000-$500,000 unused on my HELOC. I'm ready to build. There is so much opportunity for that person.
So where is the next biggest opportunity? What do you see in the market right now where you're like, oh, geez, if I had more time, I would totally do this, but we're focused over here. What's out there? What's next?
I think there's still cities that, like I still say Cornwall. Okay. Mm-hmm. I still say Cornwall, still up in Sudbury. Places that the ripple effect of the larger centers, people moving, there's no lack of jobs there. There's no lack of need for the creation of housing. Well, look at Bowmanville. Mm-hmm. Like, I passed the 407. I remember when Quinton was getting excited when the 407 hit Pickering, right? And so every time that the traffic continues to move, your opportunity, your city that you're in continues to evolve and go a little bit further out, ripple effect. Yeah. So Midland, where is Midland? Nobody knew where Midland was. And now I'm like, shh, quiet, don't talk about Midland. Because
now you and a handful of other people own the whole town.
Right, right. So, but at one time, Midland was a no place. So what is that next city where we think, oh, nobody's ever going to move here? And you just have to think differently. Just walk into the city and go, would somebody drive an extra 15 minutes to live here? And the answer is yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, the saying, drive until you qualify,
right,
is very much true. Now, it's a little different because interest rates are a little cattywampus, right? I mean, a 6% interest rate is considerably higher than 2% that people were paying before, but the prices have adjusted too.
I'm trying to think of a good way to relate this to you with no kids. But when you have a baby and your baby doesn't sleep for a year, I'll even say 2 years, right? You think that your life is never going to be the same because you can't sleep, you're not sleeping, then it's, then they're peeing the bed, then they're this, then they're that, all this kind of stuff, right? But when you're in the middle of it, it's like it's never going to end. But now I've got 17, 19-year-olds. I'm like, ooh, when am I going to have a grandbaby? I can wait, but when am I going to have a grandbaby so that I can experience that again? So, I think interest rates are just like a new baby. Nobody really saw it coming. It's painful when it's here, but it's not going to last. And why do we know it's not going to last? Because the government is not going to let. And we're talking to sophisticated investors here, right? That's who's listening to your show right now.
Yep.
This is not the average homeowner. Okay, we are sophisticated investors. It's going to hurt for a little bit. Suck it up, Buttercup. Because if we can't handle it, then the average person is certainly not going to be able to handle it. So put in some reserve funds, change your lifestyle a little bit, go back to, what are the bare basics right now? Tell your tenants, no, I'm not giving you a new fridge. I'll get a used one pulled over there for a couple $100 and you save the $700, $800, $900, whatever it needs to be. This too shall pass.
Yeah. What's the best way to hedge? You've seen it, you've seen more market cycles than I have, right? Just because you've been in this game for a really long time and you're just older than I am. What do you see that maybe the younger investors don't?
Patience, just in time, having cash reserves, enough to be able to handle the fluctuations, connection to your tenants. Isn't
that so big?
Isn't it?
I remember you posting something, and I'm cutting your story off,
No.
but it's because you're awesome. I remember you posting something on social media, and it was something like, we gave all of our tenants Christmas gifts, or you said you individually called every one of your tenants.
I did.
Yeah.
That was April
thought,
of 2020.
Yeah.
My property manager at the time had just had his second child, so he was off, and so I called my other lady, and I was like, I'm coming into the office. And I said, I need everybody's phone number. And I personally called every single tenant. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm here with you, okay? And if you can't pay your rent because you're laid off, call us. We've got resources. I never told anybody they didn't have to pay their rent.
Yep.
But they all knew that we were here together doing this. And some of them were like, who are you? I'm like, Good answer, because you don't always have to know who I am. But a lot of them were like, it's just really good to hear from you. And those are the ones. So I think right now, in times like this, we all just need to be humans. And if they think you're just out for a money grab, and there are some landlords like that. Yep. So we don't want to put us all into the same box. But if you can have that human connection to people, then that's going to go a long way.
It makes such a difference. I'm the same way. I'm totally with you. Calling the tenants, making sure they're good. A week after they move in, hey, everything all right?
You still have a gift on your wall from one of your tenants. So
I do.
I know you're connected to your tenants.
It's cool. For anybody who's listening, it's a big spoon.
Yeah.
It's like 4 feet tall. I wanted to call it the Big Spoon Podcast, or fill it with spaghetti or something, or do something fun, right? Fill it up with Cheerios.
I like the highest and best use. That's definitely a Ryan Carr thing, for sure. Yeah.
I want to wrap up with downside risk and where the opportunities lie. So there's people going bankrupt in the market right now. It's not good. It's not good. But there's some people who are finding opportunity too. What do you say to the partners who are coming in and saying, Mandy, people are losing their shirts out there. Yeah. What's up?
Secure your money. Secure it, for sure. Again, Ryan, what we said earlier, this is a get rich real slow kind of game. I scenario out to somebody. So one investor's offering 18% cash on cash return and the other's offering 8%. And I said, so if we're 12 months from now, and in one scenario, you don't have the 18%, let alone the 118,000. And the other one, you have the 108. Which one are you going to be happier with? Well, of course, they want the 108, not the risk on the extra 10 grand on top of that. And I think that turning to joint ventures, which is a way to be able to say, let's do this together. Okay. You have two heads now to be able to problem solve. If an A lender says, yeah, I'll qualify you at 80%, they have a level of due diligence already. So you're not over leveraging yourself because a bank won't over leverage you. It's a way to know that the appraiser is coming in and giving you the right appraised value. So your downside risk is through an A lender, partnering up, appraisals that can happen. And then just another way to downside your risk right now is stop speculating on what you think you can do. Oh, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to buy this 8 unit. I'm going to kick everybody out for $2,000 a piece. And I'm going to be able to renovate everything in 5 months. And then I'm going to refinance with the one remaining month. Okay, how many things in that scenario are just like...
A lot of moving pieces there.
A lot of moving pieces. Okay, you can't get people to move that quickly, especially for that low amount of money. Renovations are taking longer. They're costing more money. And refinances are taking a heck of a lot longer. So a benefit of coming together, downsizing your risk and working together, is there's a lot of lenders that are even saying, if you don't have any of your own money in the game, we might not want to even exit finance your project. They want to see your level of risk, your skin in the game, regardless of what's going on. So either your money for renovations or your, some part of the down payment. What does that look like? And I've heard that multiple times.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I could just exit finance out all this, and next thing you know, they're left with $200,000-$400,000 that is not being able to pay back to their private money lenders. So then those private money lenders who went after a higher rate of return are also in a risk position. Well, I have another deal that I need to close on. I can't carry this money anymore. I can't stay in your deal for the next 24 months. Like, I need out kind of thing. So just partnering with somebody on a boring asset because it makes sense with minimal moving parts would be a genius investment right now.
I'm so happy that you came today. This is so much fun. Just like from this side of the mic, your spunk and tenacity with respect to real estate, it's so much fun, and it's so invigorating and it's so refreshing. I think a lot of people in this market can get really low and doomy gloomy, and you're just sunshine. So from me to you, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. This was awesome.
Where can people find out more about you?
Social media, Mandy Brahnam, JV Queen on Instagram, LinkedIn, Mandy Brahnam. I post the majority of the same stuff around, but sometimes I don't. Info at Mandy Brahnam. I never want anybody stuck with a JV question. So if you send me an email, info at mandybranham.com. Sometimes I ask a lot of questions back, but those questions allow you to open up your perspective and just be able to go in with a little bit more of eyes wide open as to what that potential opportunity is. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Send
you.
me an email.
Great.
Thanks, Ryan.
There you have it, Mandy Brahnam. Thanks for tuning into the Highest and Best Use podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Sign up to the book at thehighestandbestuse.com. Like, share, follow, and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next episode.